Hello everyone, welcome back. Finally I'm able to do the Ascension update. Sorry for being this late, but I have a good reason. Why is that? I will explain in a bit. But first let's start by defining this period of time, which in the beginning, well, not the, throughout, I actually recognized the theme that actually started at least 2 years ago, I think. I spoke in an update, I think 2 years ago in January. I was mentioning at that time something about surrendering, the fact that I'm asked to surrender. And probably for most of you, this is not clear what this means actually, to surrender. Some of you get this kind of abstract thing that I'm trying to explain, because even if I use words that you might think you relate to, you don't, because there's levels and levels of the same thing, and there's no words for that in the human language, or at least words that can help you to understand. So that's why I'm always using more like geometrical way of explaining certain things, because in the end we're moving into more and more abstract ways of expressing things, and geometry and processes like in physics will describe much better certain phenomena, certain processes that, well, as I said, they are abstract in nature and they happen inside of me. And yeah, so this past more than 3 months, I recognized the theme of surrendering. In the beginning it wasn't clear, but as the year has progressed, as you might have, if you watched already the previous update, you know that I right now my focus, actually throughout this year, my focus is relaxing, regrouping, recharging my batteries. So health is at the top of my priorities this year, after all the things that I've been through last year and a little bit of this year, which I'll explain a little bit later. And also I have been away. If you happen to follow me on Instagram, you might have noticed that. And because I was in the mood, so to speak, to post a little bit more than usual. So for the most part, I've been away. Not necessarily entirely for, per se, vacation, but I also enjoyed a little bit of vacation and family and friends reunion and things like that. So this period while I was away was really good and very fruitful and productive in different ways for me. I didn't escape the weirdness while I was away, but I can't really go into all those things because they imply that I talk about things that are safety is important, as I said. So my safety is always also another priority when I talk about things. So for now, I'm not going to go into details about that, but it's like, let's say the weird things have followed me wherever I went. Not necessarily bad, there were weird things in the sense that, let's say, one side was trying to hijack certain things, and then immediately help was being given, and I was able to move forward with whatever I needed to do. But aside from this side, which at some point will show up later, maybe in the books, we'll see, I don't know, or later videos. Sorry about being vague, as I said, safety is always important, especially in these times where people still live at the mercy of their emotions. They are led by them, the desires. So people can do things because they are at the mercy of those things. So I've learned my lessons about that. So certain things should be better discussed later. So this time while I was away was a very healing, actually, a healing time for me, while I was in contact with a lot of things from a period of time where I wouldn't say necessarily that was like the happiest, but I mean in the past, but it was I connected with a part of myself that was previous to a lot of the the troublesome, the hurtful, and the things that went in my life later. And it was nice to connect with that and heal those things from, I would say, the future. So it was a great time for me, actually. And not only for me, but for the friends and the family, was that, you know, it's like not everyone in somebody's family, if you are the one that actually has more light, when you return to those friends, family things, they also benefit when you already have made certain shifts and you bring light to them. So I would say this is what happened, is like you help them as well to go beyond their own, not just limitation, but there's like, yeah, limitation because of the energy level inside them, because they got stuck in certain patterns in life, energy forms, and they couldn't have moved forward unless they would have more light coming in, and you would be that person to do that for those people. But it was more than just that, doing this for certain people. Also, I was able to access, and this is what I would say the highlight of this period of being away for me was, I was able to access the future in that space at home, and it was overwhelming because it was something so beautiful that it was surprising because it happened in such a mundane environment. Just, I don't know, taking the metro and just basically walking into a different type of reality for a few seconds. And that was confirming what I knew about the space that I was born in. But I don't want to go into much detail because there are things that will show up in book 3, and I do not want to spoil the story, and for those that already have read the book so far. But the thing is that in that place healing is taking place and certain things have corrected themselves, that now a certain future, a certain direction is available. And that was, for me, it was like it just almost brought me tears. It was a very special experience. So also another thing that I want to explain about the time that is that, I don't know if some of you noticed or not, I've been talking about time changing, the way it happened for me, at least in the way I am accessing time, due also to my codes, the clearing that I've done, that I'm continuing to do, all this progress, all this shift. But now, because we have accessed a different timeline, which I mentioned in the beginning of the year in January, and this actually is connected to what I just said earlier about seeing a certain future being available now. The thing is, we got out of the loop, the usual time repeating itself, the usual thing where you feel like time is the same, things look the same. It's like this is the year where we got out of the usual loop. and that translates into new things showing up in the realities, things that never been here before or never happened before, and that also translated as things coming to the surface. I was blown away, at least when I was at home, is like watching stuff like happened on television, because there I actually was inclined to watch a little bit of what is going on there and things like that. But also just not necessarily by doing that, but it's like somehow information would show up in different ways. You would see things coming to the surface that until then would be considered conspiracies or things that are like, they will never, these things will never show up, as in like nobody will acknowledge them or no one will say that this is true. Well, those things happened and they continue to happen. Then there's a lot of interesting things that the media, the general media, does not report, but they happen, they're good things. That was also something very very present, and it's something that will happen from now on even more as time progresses, as energy progresses, because as I said, time is actually energy expressed at a certain moment. It's like we have this amount, that means the reality looks in a certain way. In the next moment of now, if there is a little bit more energy, that means the reality will look a little bit different. So all these increments, and the energy grows faster and faster. Each moment will bring more. Already I've seen this, as I said, will bring more and more new elements, things that haven't existed until now, also that will translate in healing a lot of the pain, and historical things will be healed. Certain things that haven't been acknowledged will finally come to the surface, and people will start not to be that hypocritical as they've been, and blinded and ignorant as they have been and they still are. So that's something that I'm looking forward in the future, long term as well. And so that's actually a big thing, time, as in like what we have access now with this new timeline, and how this translates into the actual experience. But going back to my experience, now, as I said, for me this year is a year where I have to continue the process of surrendering. And what does this mean? This means that moving forward, moving into what I call the future, and experience this new reality means that you are not the same. What you understand is like, what most people understand, even on this path of whatever, spiritual path, which I explained, it's a path to freedom, is that you have to transform in order to access a different reality. You cannot be the same. You cannot think that I'm going to do the same things, have the same patterns in life, and that's how I'm going to project these things into the future. Of course, there is a reality that the reality progresses, and in different ways. There's different timelines in the end for a lot of things to be experienced. However, moving into this like higher reality it means that those who will access this kind of reality have to be basically a different species in the end, a different being. And this process of becoming that, or transcending, moving out of this lower field, is very painful. Not everyone is doing it at the same level. As I explained, the things that happen to me, they happen because of my codes and the things that I need to do. Everyone has different jobs, so the intensity of certain things are different. So I'm not saying that everyone will experience the same toughness, this like hardcore terrors that I experience. No, however, you have to understand that moving forward it's not easy in this sense that the changes that you have to make are basically you have to shift your entire mind. You have to see things in a different way. Your mind has to work in different ways. You have to have access to new ideas, and your mind will have to process more abstract thoughts. As I said, everything is abstract, but you are used to it. You know how to read it, so you don't see it as abstract. However, as the energy progresses and you clean yourself, again, we're going through the cleaning process, you will start to access more refined, more abstract thoughts, and therefore you will shift and you will see a lot of the things in your day-to-day reality as like nonsense, stupid, ridiculous, and it's like even ugly, really ugly, certain things. And basically everything that you know as life will look kind of weird to you, and like, why do we do this? And this goes into all areas like life, family, relationship, sexuality is another part that I still don't want to go in because it's very sensitive, because there's a lot of ideas about this in this spiritual, how should I say, dimension of the universe. Universe, sorry. In this community, in the spiritual community, there's a lot of things that need to be translated. That's what I have to say. Things will look very different, and as you really wake up, because there's a lot of shifts, because if it would happen all at once, first of all, the body cannot really handle all this, the mind cannot handle this, and so you need shifts. You need a lot of shifts, gradual changes. For me, these things have progressed, they have continued throughout the years, and now they are at the point that it's very hard to describe. And even, as I said, even if I use certain words and you might say, I can relate to that, I would say, no, you can't, because even if I say this means a different thing. So now it's something like this. I mentioned that for me, I outgrown life, which means a lot of my time is spent by, like, not necessarily being miserable, but it's very painful for me because I still have to do certain things in this reality, and therefore at times I have to wait and I have to fill my time with things that, like, because things need to catch up, so they need time, because you cannot force everyone to go at this crazy speed as I am asked to do certain things. So in this sense, it's very painful for me, during these processes, during these tortures that happen inside my mind, which I explained a little bit like 2 years ago in January. And at the same time, painful when you see, the life, the people, the things, certain things that I still need to access. I have to do certain things with them, for them. They are still not where I can actually explain or connect how I would like to, from that kind of reality that I would like to share, as like to have a communication at the same level. So this does not happen. And in this sense, now I'll come back to the eating, drinking pattern. For me at this point, so I maintain the hybrid mode, so to speak. I have my dry mode, I consume also food, and I use it as experiences, but also now for me is basically to lower myself in order for me to connect with certain people, being able to transmit a message. That's very interesting, because it's like if I'm out of it, it's hard to access. It's hard even to connect with certain people, because it's like the energy is so low, it's so hardened that it's like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. So then I have to eat to feel like, okay, I can do it. I eat a little bit more. Okay, I can do that, and finally find a way to communicate certain things. So yes, most of the time I don't want to do that, but I am forced in order to communicate, to do certain things, to have patience. And that's why I said it's like I don't judge myself anymore because I cannot be at the level that I want to be, is because everything serves a purpose. In the beginning, this was for me to gain space, and it's continuing to be that when I'm in dry mode. But then again, when I return to consume some things, I know that one, it's like to dissolve these patterns completely, but also at this point really is for me a way to connect with people, with things in lower levels of energy. This is like a bridge. So I'm using this as that mainly. Because another thing has happened, as I said, nothing stayed the same, even if I haven't really changed my schedule, so to speak, in the sense of like how many days in a row I'm dry. No, I'm still having that, what I explained even last time. So this is like, even if I have the same basically portions of time of doing dry mode and then consuming something, still things have changed, meaning that until now, because the energy being in dry mode was looking different, and it feels like, I don't explain to you, you feel removed, and then now it feels like more present, like being in dry mode doesn't feel anymore like being in the dry mode, like you feel filled from inside, and then it doesn't feel any more different from this reality. So it feels much more, not that before it wasn't pleasant, but it doesn't feel anymore like on different levels. So it feels more full but light at the same time. And also when it comes to food and when it comes to certain things, eating, I explain all these things that have experienced all this level of weirdness. Now it's like, I think I've said that before, but it's not just with food, it's with everything. It's like I'm running into a wall. It's like you're trying to stretch, it's like I'm trying to go inside something, and because my energy is so much bigger than that, say this is a pattern, and my energy is like this, trying to fit my energy that's like this into something like this, it's painful. And it's just, it feels like you're just like constricted, and then at some point, I don't know, it's weird. It's like you're running into a wall. It's very, very, because I'm trying to make myself small, and then it's like you reach the end of it, you reach the limitation. It's like you start to feel the walls of that, say the prison, the wall of that pattern. It's hard to explain, as I said, but I'm trying to give you something like a visual image to kind of like understand how would that feel physically. And this happens with basically all patterns of life. In this, because of that, I need variation. I have to find new ways of, like, in a way, distracting myself to in order for me to wait for certain things to change. I have to find ways, creative ways, to not feel that, because it's like I'm going to a pattern and I'm like consuming it and like absorb it, and then I have to get out of it. And then as I reach its limit, it's very, very painful for me. So this happens with absolutely basically everything. So there's things that I don't do anymore in this life, but I don't talk about that. Not yet anyway. But I have to. I go to like nicer places and just to distract myself from basically seeing that, okay, people and things have a certain speed, and I have to accept that because we're not all moving at the same speed. And yeah, so that's another thing that is happening. Also, because of all these things, I have to be gentle with myself. I have to take a lot more time to really be gentle with myself, because my entire life I basically I didn't know what else but work. I pushed myself. Not because somebody forced me or anything, but I always found great pleasure, great joy in doing things, creating things. It's still my main joy. It's just now it's different. It manifests in a different way. I'm going to talk about this another time, about how creativity and things have shifted as well. How it wants to express, I mean. So I cannot force myself, even like workouts, like the exercises. I cannot do it like I did it when I was, I don't know, in my 20s. Well, soon I'll be 40, but it's like, not that I'm actually seeing this as aging, because for me, as I said, I don't really add time. I don't feel that. It's, for me, it's just every time, every moment it adds, in the sense I'm more expanded. That's about it. It's not about anything else. So things, I don't feel like pushing myself like I would do in, for instance, in that time, not even a few years ago. It's like whatever exercises I might do, and now, because now coming back to the little incident that actually stopped me from filming earlier, at least 3 weeks or something like that, when it happened. So I had this little accident, so to speak, in the sense that I had a cold, which I don't really have cold anymore. Not necessarily as a cold, because this was not really. And now we're going into something that people know as like conspiracy, whatever, from the conspiracy universe. So for the last 10 years, I don't know what it is anymore to have a cold, or basically to be sick or something like that. That started the moment when I actually started to take vitamin D3. But as I said, immediately after I've done the process, I haven't taken absolutely anything for at least 2.5 years. And then I mentioned that I started to take certain vitamins for certain reasons, when they play with the certain things in the grid. And now they're still attempting certain weird things, and they try now to target certain genotypes, certain blood types, certain things. And let's just say they tried something also on me. But because I am clean, I have enough space inside myself, there was not much to do as in damage, but it still affected my throat. And I had this weird cough, and I felt really, really bad for a day, but it was a horrible cough for at least like 2 weeks. And felt a little bit dizzy, but not like my husband, for instance, because he brought it home, so to speak, because he's also a special, let's say, blood type, but because he consumes cheese and things like this, for him was much, much worse in many ways. However, during this time, one day weekend, we went out and we discovered a new place, but I'm going to talk about this later, because it's I want to develop as like talk about a certain subject that's connected with this event. But in terms of like health and things like that, that day I had some chamomile tea, which is okay for me. I don't drink it that much, but that night I felt drinking some chamomile tea. And it was okay. But the next day I said to myself, maybe I should buy some chamomile tea and have this while I'm dealing with this dry cough. And as I bought this new box of like tea and stuff like that. I had that tea, and then after that I had this like hives like all throughout my body, and it was just like really, really weird. And I felt dizzy, I felt weak, and I was like, oh my god, what this is? I thought it was like food poisoning, but then again, it's like, wait a second, but I haven't really eaten today. It's like, I haven't eaten today. It was from one night before, and it's like, I don't understand. Anyways, so it took me a few days until I figured out that it was this tea, and it was more than just that, but it was in this tea. And that night, it was really, really bad. It made me dizzy, and the camera stopped, and I don't know what it recorded, so I think I might have to repeat now. So the night when I had the chamomile incident, I had these huge hives, and it made me dizzy, it made me really sick, and I was afraid that something worse might happen, but I knew that I can overcome this. Anyways, but I woke up in the middle of the night, and this thing was like, I just pulled my pants down to see if those things went away, disappeared, because they just start small and then they just spread and then they basically disappeared after a few hours. And as I did this, because I was dizzy, I fell. Anyway, I fell and then I felt really bad, and then I split my eyebrow and something here on here I hurt myself on the bridge of my nose, and I thought that I broke my nose. And anyways, I scared my husband because I fell twice, and then he heard me. It's like, didn't understand, was making all this weird noise which I don't remember. Anyway, he just remembers that he told me that he found me on the floor and looking with my eyes open, but not really registering who and what was happening around me. Anyway, I went to the hospital, and I got some stitches. Thankfully, my nose wasn't really broken, and long story short, I heal very fast and well. And so this was the thing that stopped me from filming when I wanted to film, because it wasn't just me having problem here and whatever, how these things were looking, because it wasn't that bad. Because as I said, I heal very fast, and so this wasn't really a problem. But this is how I felt, because I hurt my ribs. I don't have anything broken, but it was really bad. I wasn't comfortable standing in a certain position to talk, so this took a little bit longer to feel enough okay so I can come forward and talk to you. Another thing that I want to talk about, to highlight, is this event in regards to the place that I said that I went and had the chamomile tea. So that day was a day when I was cleaning through the house. I got rid of finally I was able to, I'm not a hoarder, first of all. I am a minimalist. I have enough space in my home so I won't feel cluttered. Plus I like order and things to be tidy, either way. But it was time for me to finally let go of certain things that until then I thought, maybe I will have other opportunities to wear those things or whatever. But I was like, no, it's time to let go of those things. So that day I was going through my wardrobe, and I said, I'm going to make somebody happy. And as I was finally getting rid of those things, that day my husband came home, and he said, this feels like vacation in here. What did you do? Usually, either way, when people come here and they feel like they're at a hotel, I don't know, something like very relaxed and zen. I like to live like that. But then again, there was this shift that happened, and he noticed this like right away. It's like, this feels like vacation in here. And it's like, yeah, sure, because I got rid of certain blocks of energy that didn't match how I was inside, and there were things that I felt like they were blocking me to move forward. And this might happen to you as well. So from time to time, and this is the stuff that I want to actually emphasize and to stress, is that sometimes we have objects, we have things inside our house that no longer match who we are energetically when we go through all this shift. And by having those things around, they are kind of like blocking our progress, like moving forward, accessing new ideas, accessing certain even situations. So it's important to recognize those things, those, at this point, physical things, which are no longer a match for who you have become. So that happened. It happened that day, as I was getting rid of all those things, I finally actually was able to okay, I'm going to wear these things that I bought a long time ago, and I couldn't wear because of the weather mostly. And it's like, great. So I used all this new energy that was available. It's like finally I was able to access this new energy that was available, but I couldn't employ it to my reality because there were all the others, all these other elements that were like blocking it. And that day we finally went to this like nice restaurant, nice place, which we wanted to go for a very long time, but we always said like next time, because mostly we would see the menu, and the menu was like they have nothing plant-based. So I was just like, you know, if you go to a restaurant, if you go to a cafe, well, even if you go there for the atmosphere, you still have to consume something. So I had no real reason to go there, but as I did this, we were pleasantly surprised to discover that now this place had plant-based options, and they actually said that from now on they are actually willing to expand this side of the menu, and that they're very, I say, conscious of like, and they have their own whatever farms and things where they pick their vegetables and whatever things that they use in the kitchen and things like that. And it's like, oh, okay, great. And not only that, which was a really nice surprise because the place was really nice. As I said, I like to go to nice places to just, I mean, for variety and forget that certain things don't move as fast as I want. Anyways, with certain people, certain things or whatever. So I just have to like keep circling around until the accretion happen, and then until those things happen. But that night, not only this was nice, not only this was the nice surprise, but that night was also like really stormy, like it is right now. It's like it's raining, by the way. I don't know if you can hear this. And as we got to that restaurant, immediately it started like pouring. It's like the sky like opened and just like all this rain coming down. But as we left, all cleared, and it was just like this magical, the reality that I know, the other reality that I access, it like was more present now, and I walked into it when I walked out, and it was just like, it felt, this other reality is very much like, I don't know, it's like, it's very fluid first of all, and it feels like a dream, and it's like watery. It's, yeah, that's the best I can describe this. And I was really surprised that just by me getting rid of, I don't know, some clothes and some objects that it's time to let them go, make somebody else happy. I mean, I already know this, and I've done it many times, but in particular for this particular day, for this particular situation, it's like just by doing that, it turned into a, it's like it, not only one good thing came out of it. It's like much more than just that. It opened me, and finally I could walk directly into this reality, because I have different ways of experience this reality, but this was just like one after another. It just like snowball, you know. And that was just like, wow. It was just a really nice, and this is how I want to end actually the video, to emphasize the fact that the cleaning, it's something that we do inside. First of all, we start inside, but then again also we have to care for our reality on the outside, because sometimes certain objects and things can be those things that block the shift from fully taking place, as in like something to experience in my reality, in your reality. And not only that, but some things can make you even sick, or feel unhappy, and you don't know what that is. but once you acknowledge it, sometimes you might not realize that it's just one object, but you started small by cleaning and whatever, and then you feel like maybe this thing shouldn't be here anymore, so you get rid of it or give it to somebody else that might need it at their level of energy. It might help them. So that's about it in general. There's other things, but there will be other videos, so I hope this was interesting. I hope everyone is doing well, wherever you are in the world, whatever you are doing. And that was it. See you next time. Ciao. There's a higher order of things, and what you think that, oh, I have to follow those dreams, like I really have to, but